Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today. In the light of World Refugee Day, we decided to organize this conference to promote the work that we're doing with Techfugees and our volunteer chapters, and also present our crowdfunding campaign, Take Down Borders, which we launched last week to kickstart our platform Basefugees. So we're going to be live during 2 hours. And first of all, I wanted to share with you a word from our founder and chairman, Mike Butcher, about this event.
Hello, I'm Mike Butcher, the founder of Techfugees. Techfugees is an international non-profit serving a mission to leave no displaced persons behind in an increasingly digital world, and one which is gradually feeling the effects of climate change. From climate change to social reform, many of the world's most pressing issues are being addressed by digital innovations to change behaviours and challenge the status quo. However, every 4 seconds, someone is forcibly displaced from their home, and these figures are growing. With climate change, over 1 billion people are projected to be forcibly displaced from their homes by 2050. At Techfugees, we harness the global digital tech community to empower marginalized, displaced communities with responsible digital innovations to enable equitable access to information, education, healthcare, work, and inclusion in society. In celebration of World Refugee Day, we are excited to launch a global Tech Down Borders crowdfund campaign to present Basefugees, a new open collaborative platform showcasing responsible tech innovations designed to uplift displaced persons and tech innovators. Today, we humbly ask you for your help and support in this. Operating within the framework of the UN Sustainable Development Goals, we are scaling 5 key catalyst initiatives and need your support. In Uganda, we'll be enabling access to digital education in refugee camps. In Kenya, supporting access to health for refugees. In Nigeria, supporting internally displaced women with the ability to sell their goods online. In Lebanon, creating remote work opportunities and digital training. And in France, supporting the integration of refugees in society. We hope you will support the campaign with your donation to help us scale these solutions. Your donation, no matter how small, it could be the price of a coffee, will make a difference to sustain these initiatives and empower the inclusion of displaced people and elevate their voices and their lives. Together we're stronger. Join us and thank you.
Thank you for this. So we're going to introduce the work that we do with Techfugees and why our organization started and the different logic that led us to build Basefugees today and start this crowdfunding campaign. And then we'll have 5 fireside chats to introduce 5 catalyst projects that we're doing in Uganda, in Kenya, in Nigeria, in France, and in Lebanon. So you can ask all your questions there, and we'll end up with a networking session for those of you who are interested to ask more questions about the innovators and the impact on the ground. Without further ado, I'll let my colleague Raj Berman take over to introduce what we do at Techfugees, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Louise. Delighted to be here. I'm Raj Berman, CEO of Techfugees. On behalf of our global community, a very warm welcome for joining us today. Today's a really special day. Not only is it the 21st day of the 21st week of the 21st century, we are actually celebrating World Refugees with the launch of Take Down Borders. We have an amazing lineup of global community representatives from across the world. But without further ado, let me take a brief moment just to kind of share some context as to why we're all here today and the real purpose of what we do at Techfugees. We live in an unfair world that doesn't present equal opportunities for all, that marginalizes people from not having equitable access, particularly for digital access to information, education, health, work, and inclusion. There's been a lot of work on the ground by major institutions, but throughout history and for generations past, the nature of forcefully displacement has happened for many, many reasons, as we know, due to conflicts, due to war, persecution, and now even climate change is the big concern. You know, to date, 1% of humanity, around, you know, close to about 83 million, you know, that's the population size of Germany, has been forcibly displaced. And this number is growing rapidly. And it will grow for the next 3 decades due to climate change. But you know what? Nobody really wants to be forcefully displaced. And being a refugee is really an experience that nobody wants to have by choice. It is an experience that can happen to you, me, or anyone. You know, one of the things that keeps me awake is knowing that every 4 seconds, at least one person is displaced, and this number is growing. But there are key facts that we need to make note of. And there are many institutional data points around this. The first key fact is that out of the 83 million people who are forcibly displaced, 35 million of them, approximately 40% of those who are forcibly displaced, are children under the age of 18, with 1 million of them born as refugees. Secondly, nearly 3/4 of those who have been displaced are actually hosted by neighboring countries. And thirdly, and which is really interesting, over 86% of those who are displaced are hosted by developing countries. But with climate change now headlining as one of the top crises facing humanity today, the displacement figures is shockingly going to be expected to grow and to over 1 billion people by 2050. So what can we do? You know, as humans, we have the ability to reach the stars, but we, within our digital world today, we have the ability to harness the transformation power of technology, of digital innovations to actually empower inclusion of those who are marginalized and forcibly displaced on the ground. At Techfugees since 2015, we've been gathering and harnessing and mobilizing our global digital tech collective. We can't do this on our own, so we have to work together. And together with our volunteering community worldwide, we empower displaced inclusions and innovations with responsible innovations that we've learned and provide insights to elevate those unheard, unseen, displaced voices to the forefront to kind of promote their human rights. So today we're celebrating enrichment with World Refugees with the launch of Tech Down Borders, the crowdfunding campaign. We're so excited to bring you today some great representatives from our global community, from Lebanon, from Uganda, from Kenya, Nigeria, and France, where you're going to hear some of the local initiatives on the ground that empower displaced inclusion. Inclusion in terms of providing equitable access to information, education, health, and work. Humanity really does matter. And so, but we do need your help and to scale these initiatives. And together we are stronger to kind of break down all the divide to make a real difference to those who are displaced and leave nobody behind. So without further ado, I'd like to hand over to my colleagues to walk you through the rest of the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Raj. I'll take over with Kahula, who is leading the effort on the research on our guiding principle to explain to you a little bit more what brought us to work on Basefugees and what is Basefugees and what is tech projects that we call responsible. My name is Louise. I've been working at Techfugees for the past 3 years as a global community coordinator, which means I'm in touch with the different teams of volunteers on the ground that we call chapters, who are both in resettlement countries like Canada, France, Italy, Germany, and also in countries neighboring forced displacement like Kenya, Nigeria, Uganda, and Lebanon. And with our global community, we've been working since 2015 on challenging a status quo, being forcibly displaced persons, including refugees, asylum seekers, stateless persons, and IDPs, lack equal access to chances because of a political status, because of the economic environment that they're living in. So what we have started to do back in 2015 is to understand how technology can challenge that status quo and can enable displaced persons to have access to more opportunities to fight for social justice. We've been targeting 5 key areas in which we believe and we've seen that technology can change the narrative, but also the behaviors and the access to opportunities, which are first access to information, meaning connectivity, knowing your rights, identity. The second pillar being education, so how to continue primary education, secondary education, how to learn languages, how to gain digital skills, how to recognize diplomas. The third being access to employment, so everything that is connected with financial inclusion, but also remote work. The fourth one being health, so how to access health services when you're speaking a different language, how to protect your data, medical data, how to access mental health support for post-traumatic syndromes, etc. And the fifth one is social inclusion, so how to access housing, how to get integrated in a new environment, and facilitate cultural exchange. In those 5 areas, our chapters have been either ideating through hackathons, through various innovation and open innovation processes. So to create simple tools that could change the status quo, or working with existing tech solutions that are ethical, are sustainable, and that can scale and get implemented on the ground. So the kind of support that we bring to those projects is either technical support with our global community of developers, designers, entrepreneurs, but also implementation support to understand what needs to be adapted in those solutions so that they're relevant on the ground. Something that is really important, and I'll leave my colleague Kaula to explain to you a little bit more, is we talk a lot about tech for good and about tech innovation that can change the world. But as we're working with communities that can be marginalized and that needs to be involved in those innovation, you don't do tech innovations. You have to think about how to make it. And with Techfugees, we've published 8 guiding principles that are tips, important tips that any innovator must take into account in the design process, in the development process of such innovation. And we use it as a baseline and a collective information basis to choose the project that we're working with. I'll let Kaula tell you a bit more about what those guiding principles are.
Okay, thank you very much, Louise, for the great introduction. So my name is Kaula, and as Louise mentioned, I'm working on the guiding principles of Techfugees. Maybe the first question that we can ask ourselves, why do we have guiding principles? So Louise already introduced this, but I would like just to remind, why do we have these? So yeah, what we want to achieve is to build a responsible and sustainable design, be mindful when we work with displaced persons, and also to keep in mind an ethical approach. So this is a representation of the 8 guiding principles that we have at Techfugees. So the first one is about human-centric design. The second one is about technology empowerment. The third one is data governance and transparency. The fourth is about open source. The fifth is inclusive tech, and the sixth is about sustainability. The seventh is human rights approach, and finally, the last one is no solutionism. Tech alone is not a solution. So when we see those 8 guiding principles, we can think about 3 different clusters where these are grouped. So the first one is about the design process. So what is the design process that we aim for once we would like to build those responsible and sustainable projects for displaced people. So this is basically around human-centered design, tech empowerment, the inclusive tech, the sustainability. This is mainly structured around the human as a center of the design, then the technology, and finally the resources to enable this sustainability aspect of the design. The second cluster, which is as important as the first one, is about data. So what do we do with data? How do we handle data? So we have here the data governance principle and the open source principle. And finally, the ethics, which should accompany the whole process from the beginning, to be mindful of the human rights of displaced people, of how they need to be considered once they leave their countries, their countries of origin. So as you see here, all those principles are interconnected. They are all linked with each other, and we cannot consider one apart from the other. So basically, the idea is to have all of these in mind and to see them as a whole and not as separate guiding principles. So what we are trying to do now is to build a knowledge database around all of these guiding principles. And here I'm just calling again for contribution. If anyone wants to support on building this knowledge database, we'll be happy to include you in all our discussions, and we will be happy also to have your support for us, because we would like this to be also participative approach where everybody can contribute. What we are building also, we are trying to gather and collect existing toolkits and try to see how we can apply those toolkits for Techfugees and for projects that are featured in Basefugees. And finally, what we would like to build is a framework around all those guiding principles and the 3 clusters that are already identified to help future projects build and think responsibly once they are designing for displaced people. And finally, what we aim for is to develop awareness sessions and to share best practices that we are gathering from different project founders around their experience with the guiding principle in the design and handling of data, and finally the ethical approach. Thank you.
Thank you, Kaula. These principles are important for us, not only because they're based on experience of what we saw working and what didn't work, but because it's also a big ask from the project owner and the innovator to be able to exchange with other innovators and learn from each other's. We've launched Basefugees, which is an open showcase of responsible innovations that we've been selecting based on these guiding principles that have a real impact on the ground and that are answering a real challenge. And we're using the guiding principle as this analytic grid to know what projects are working, which are the ones that we want to support through our chapters. So this platform is not only a virtual place for innovators to exchange with each other, because we saw a lot of duplication in the different tech projects that were answering the main displaced person challenges, but it's also a way for us to support and organize the volunteer community to support technically and with the implementation of those projects. So it gives visibility to those projects, it helps promoting them, and it helps connecting with our network of partners that can help with the technical support and deep implementation. We're still at the MVP stage with this platform, which has been developed for the past years with volunteers from Colombia, Mexico, United States, France, and United Kingdom. And today we need your support to scale it. So we've launched a crowdfunding campaign called the Tech Down Borders crowdfunding campaign to really collect financial support to enable us to scale this platform, develop it further, and test it with 5 Catalyst projects, who are the 5 alpha users who will be giving us for the next 6 months feedback about the value that they get from Basefugees and how they are getting supported by the different chapters. And today we're going to talk to you about those 5 projects that we've curated and chosen with the volunteers on the ground, with the chapters on the ground. So we'll start with the collaboration between Techfugees Uganda and Buffalo Green in Ramwanja settlement, who will be presented by Benjamin, Vanessa, and moderated by Raj. Then we'll continue with Techfugees Kenya, who collaborated with the Kenya Red Cross to create a e-health application for a usage in Kakuma refugee camp. We'll continue with France, with Charania from Techfugees France and Alvaro from Refugee Infobus, moderated by Jérémy Garnier, about access to connectivity in the north of France in Calais. We'll continue with the team in Nigeria, who created with IDP craft women e-marketplace called Displaced People's Market. And we'll finish with Humans in the Loop, who collaborated with Techfugees in Lebanon to create remote work opportunities for displaced persons in Lebanon. Each of these fireside chat would last 15 minutes with the person representing Techfugees on the ground and a member of the project, and we'll explain to you what problem they're tackling, what is the context locally, how this collaboration happened, and also why they need funds and they need your support to go further. We'll start with Techfugees Uganda, and I invite Raj Berman, Vanessa Arel, and Benjamin to join us on the virtual stage. Thanks.
Just to introduce the panel, so I'm Raj Berman here, moderating the session on education, and I'm very delighted to have Benjamin from our Ugandan chapter in the Rwanda camp, together with Vanessa Arel of Buffalo Grid. It is a 15-minute chat about some of the issues around access to education. And so I do encourage everybody in the audience, if this kind of stirs any ideas or thoughts or any questions that you have, please do feel free to put them in the chat, and we'd love to have your comments coming through. So let me begin with you, Benjamin. First of all, delighted to have you, Benjamin, joining us from Uganda. I know internet connection is always a problem, from one settlement, and so really happy for you to join. Perhaps I could start the session with if you could just highlight for the next 4 or 5 minutes your experience of the challenges on the ground, Benjamin, with the refugees in the settlement. What is life really like, and what is the context of education, particularly for helping women and some of the areas in empowering them? Could you share some insights as to what you're seeing on the ground?
Yes, once again, Benjamin from Uganda, most probably in the Rwanda refugee camp. I am so grateful again to see all of you attending this platform as a conference, and I would love to share a bit later about the frustration happening around education with refugees in the Rwanda refugee camp. I'm certain sure that everyone knows that Uganda is heading at the most refugee hosting country in Africa, with now 1.35 million. Now, assuming that after the lockdown or the coronavirus, the number might double. Rwanda refugee camp is a camp of over 75 people, all refugees living in the camp, but 1 or 2 of them have access to education. And which quality of education are they accessing? Finding a classroom that is having around 400 children in one classroom, where they are sharing 3 people, 1 chair. It is critical and catastrophic. Now, as today, with coronavirus, with the lockdown that is continuing in Uganda, no child has access to education. I am not able to share my photos because I am attending from the phone. My PC has no power. But now, currently, no child has access to even the other education they had. The only solution that could be used is only technology that is having now 99% heading the world. Uganda has here in the Rwanda refugee camp among the 75,000 refugees, it is 82% of women and children. Only 2% of elders who don't need access to education, but all 98% of the people need access to education, but it's not provided. We are really congratulating the international and charities like Techfugees that is heading with the purpose of supporting refugees in the Ramonja camp to access education. We have come together with Buffalo Grid with an aim to provide internet accessibility and digital skills to both refugee youth, ladies, and gentlemen. I am sure that this solution is not only going to benefit refugees, but also the host community around. Let's say, for example, right now, I have server to charge my PC or my phone to attend this conference. There are a lot of refugees who are relying on outsider people. They have friends, they can make a call and get some money to sustain themselves. Since in the refugee camp, there are no sustainability activity that they can do. But they don't have access to internet. They don't have access to devices. None of them, most of them don't know even how to operate with a PC. What about the host community around? What is happening currently? Now that today, there is no child can go to school or can access. Now imagine yourself, where are they passing all the day and the night? What are they doing? How are we trying to serve the next generation? Maybe 5 or 2 years from now, what will happen among the population or refugees? These are first people who have trauma from their home countries, the violence they have faced, the tragedy and so on. And then when they come in the refugee camp, it still be the same. So how are they going to be served? My call could be to everyone who has attended this meeting to have this voice to friends who have not been able to attend. This is a call that needs to reach everyone in the world and find a sustainable solution that supports these people to move out of trauma. I'm just going to give a short testimony. In 2 weeks I've been in Ramonja. I have seen 3 people who have killed themselves. A person hanging himself because of what is happening in the refugee camp. So how is the world really responding to this challenge? Techfugees has come with Buffalo Grid, but we really need people. We need more people to come closer and support this solution. With the over 75,000 of people, how can 2 people or 2 organizations support? But I believe that the togetherness will make more impact and we will really respond to these problems. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Benjamin. Thank you. Very powerful insight. And thank you for sharing that, some of the challenges that you're experiencing in the region, and it deeply resonates. I want to turn to Vanessa. Vanessa, you have an amazing role at Buffalo Grid. Can you kind of share your insights, what Buffalo Grid is for people who don't know, and your experience in some of the developing markets in terms of empowering and education access?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Raj, for the introduction. And thank you, Benjamin, for your insights. It's always a powerful experience to speak to you and to hear what's going on in the camp, as well as a lot of the other volunteers that we've had an opportunity to speak with. So I'm the Chief Strategy Officer at Buffalo Grid. Buffalo Grid's purpose or mission is to connect the unconnected. We've developed a technology, which is a standalone solar-powered hub that allows for mobile devices to be charged. And it connects to the 3 or 4G mobile network, and it consistently is updating content that is purposely selected to support sustainable development in a community where the hubs will be deployed. In this case, in the camp in Uganda, with a focus on education content. We can provide video, audio, text, PDF, pictures. It is a reciprocal loop, so we can actually run quizzes and surveys as well as part of the service that Buffalo Grid provides. And we've partnered up with Techfugees to bring this service to camps in Uganda and in Kenya as well, in terms of a first deployment, East Africa, and then we're looking at the Middle East. Our whole purpose is to work with communities, the community on the ground. So it's a very grassroots-led solution because the content is selected with the partners on the ground. And that's why we've had endless conversations with the Techfugees teams and the different NGOs and multilaterals and even local solutions such as Benjamin's project of Gino. And so we simply provide the hubs. The purpose of this partnership with Techfugees that we've been working with Raj and Luis and all the team now for a few months is to bring the hubs to the camps to be able to facilitate access to digital content with a focus, as we said, education and health. I think that's pretty much what we do, and we can do the work that we do because we have partners like you, Raj and Louise, and the teams and the support of the teams guiding us on what are the solutions that are the best practices. They're yielding the best results for people who need it and want it.
Yes. Oh, thank you, Vanessa. That's a great introduction. I'll turn to Benjamin again. Benjamin, I looked at a comment in one of the chat, and I want to thank Shelley Spencer for providing information about an open source women's digital financial literacy curriculum that's available through IVR in Uganda in terms of building digital skills. I wonder, Benjamin, from your experience in terms of digital financial literacy and women and education, how does that resonate in the Rwanda camp?
Yes, currently there are quite organizations providing financial literacy to refugees. And this morning I had a chat with one of the trainers. I was asking, we are training financial literacy, but how are we supporting refugees to get money to get this financial literacy they're learning? Yeah, but currently something that is supporting refugees with their little money they are receiving from UNHCR, 18,000 Ugandan shillings, approximately $6 to $7. And the financial literacy is one of these tools that is supporting refugees to know how to manage their little money as they get.
Thank you, Benjamin. I also see, since you made a reference to UNHCR, I want to thank Vincent. I believe he shared some really interesting resource from UNHCR on the chat, which is really good. Thank you, Vincent, for that. I want to turn to Vanessa. Obviously, guiding principles you've heard from the last presentation. Techfugees, we're embracing those principles in terms of making those innovations responsible. Can you share from your perspective, from Buffalo Grid, how does that resonate with you as a company, and how do you embrace those sort of ethics in your designs to kind of empower inclusion and empowerment?
Let's just be one of the reasons, or the main reason why we exist, and one of the reasons why Daniel, one of the co-founders and our CEO, sort of took on the next challenge was because of the digital divide. So inclusion is at the forefront of what we do. It is our greatest challenge, but in a way, it's also our greatest friend. One could say that the foe is your friend because it's the driving force of what we're doing. The guiding principles of Techfugees have or are becoming for us also guiding principles for the work that we do. Being able to work with partners that have very clear principles, that have very clearly guided principles with a focus on benefiting the people that we serve is fundamental. And so for us, it's sort of like auto incorporating it into the way, giving words and names to the way that we were working as well. And that just shows how much more powerful the potential of the partnership can be and will be from where I'm sitting, looking at the screen with all of these people here. So I think that's very important for us. We're just very happy and very excited to be able to participate in this because it's opened a whole world for us to operate. We do commercial deployments we're doing commercial deployments in Bangladesh. We've been working in India. We're going to go commercially into Nigeria, for example, in the next 12 months. And we know the potential impact that can have. In our trials in India, we saw that the mom and pop shops where the hubs were deployed, the owners of the shops saw an increase of at least 50% of their revenues. So if we are to bring these services to displaced communities where there are little industries or little shops, if we were to provide the hubs to shops that are run by women, say, for example, then we know there'd be an even greater direct benefit to the education of their children, the nutrition of their children, and the community as a whole. So we're looking at every potential angle or every possible opportunity where we can strengthen the impact with the work that we're doing, but it's always going to be dependent on the partners. Because of Techfugees, we have been opened, it's opened the doors and almost the hearts of the team members on the ground, which has opened a whole other avenue of where we can potentially work. It's just a new business model, one could even say.
Indeed. Thank you, Vanessa. Benjamin, just a question from you. Can you say a few words? I know there's a community hub type of initiative that's been built in Rwanda. Can you say a few words about that?
We are looking forward to, I hope everyone has already seen the campaign we are running as Techfugees Uganda online and the global community together with Buffalo Grid. So we are looking forward to set up a community hub here in Rwanda that will be providing refugees with accessibility to digital education. It's a laptop, they can access internet and charging hub as Buffalo Grid is providing us. It is really something we are curiously waiting for, and we cannot wait here in the Rwanda refugee camp. Yeah, thank you so much, Raj, for sharing the photo. So everyone can already see the work that is happening, and we wish I could be able to share some and show the members how the development, the work is going on. This was just a foundation, but now it is growing slowly by slowly. And we really invite everyone to share our campaign and invite friends, people to like and share with other friends.
That's great. Thank you, Benjamin. I think we're coming close to the end of this moderation session. I can see there's no further questions in the chat. Maybe I can just ask final question to Vanessa, if I may. Vanessa, just a quick one in a 2-second chat of it. Why is this campaign very important to Buffalo Grid?
It's that's a very difficult question, Raj, for a 2-second answer, but it's very important because we know the potential impact that it can have just by providing a practical education, not just for children where we can bring the national curriculum or the education for a classroom, but supplementary education. Everything from learning and reading and learning how to speak English without a native accent to STEM courses, and then adult education, financial literacy, developing digital skills. Even from the basis of helping people developing digital skills, we can help bring people, connect, that not just the unconnected. Our sort of slogan is connecting the unconnected, but in this case, it's connecting the displaced who had another additional barrier to becoming connected. It's almost like cutting out that barrier that is invisible, but still very, very powerful.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Vanessa. Well, I hope the audience has learned much more about what's happening in Uganda. And thank you, Benjamin, and thank you, Vanessa, for sharing your insights. I hope that's been very insightful. So that brings a close to the education piece. So I'd like to hand over the call to my colleague, Louise, to talk to the next moderation channel.
Thank you. Thank you, Benjamin, Vanessa, and Raj. For everyone, you have received a link as well to the specific sub-campaign for Uganda if you want to check and have more information. There's the link of Buffalo Grid and Basefugees as well if you want to learn more about their innovation. And don't forget that we have a networking session at the end as well. If you still want to ask questions, we'll make sure to connect you. We'll move on to the second fireside chat to talk about the work done in Kenya and the project that was co-created with the Kenya Red Cross. So I'm inviting Mary, Roy, and Jared on the virtual stage and leave the floor to Jared to moderate.
Thank you so very much, Louise. As always, it's always a pleasure, being part of this conversation. And, it gives me a lot of joy to see the growth that has been realized over the years. And I remember when we started the conversation of having Techfugees make inroads to Africa and East Africa, to be specific, that 4 years ago. And there were very few people, to talk about. But currently, see what's happening. We are talking of Techfugees Uganda. We are talking of Techfugees Nigeria. And this is just beautiful. It's amazing, and I'm very happy, and even more delighted that personally have been part of this journey. So to everyone, my name is Jared Owor. I am the Regional Operations Officer at Samuel Hall. I lead research operations for the organization in Africa. And as an organization, we are a social enterprise specializing in research, policy design, monitoring, and evaluation, with a focus on contexts affected by migration. Now, within this space that we are having a discussion on, our main interest is to support development of research methodologies and tools with a focus on emerging technologies and their impact on refugee support services and systems. Now with me, two very amazing people, Mary Munyoki from Techfugees, Kenya, and of course, Roy Ahau from the Kenya Red Cross Society. We would like to just hear from them. I know there are a lot of things that are going on, and especially from the Techfugees angle. I know I'll start with Mary. A lot has been going on since 2019 when we first had a one-of-a-kind hackathon in Africa, and that has also created a lot of openings for other activities. Would you maybe tell us what aspects that Techfugees Kenya is looking at in terms of interventions around health and the challenges that you're trying to address, and especially around features of the solution that you're trying to put in place? And then later, once you've given that insights, we will talk to Roy and also maybe get to know more from him about the significance that this campaign, Take Down Borders, is to Kenya Red Cross, and what are they looking forward to?
Thank you so much, Jared. I'm so excited to be here. My name is Mary Munyoki. I'm here to represent the Techfugees Kenyan chapter. I launched the chapter 1 year ago. It has been an amazing journey, as Jared says, since 2020. The chapter here basically was founded in 2017. We launched in 2020, and we have a team members of 7 as of now. Our focus has been mainly in the health, in partnership with the Kenya Red Cross, and education in partnership with Buffalo Grid. Some of the partners we've worked with have entailed, Samuel Hall, Kenya Red Cross, Oracle, Google, Kakuma Ventures, and Buffalo Grid. The events we've hosted, 1 hackathon, which I'll speak about in the next few seconds, and 3 meetups and other events invitations we've received is from EU Africa Hackathon and TAN with refugees. The skill sets in our teams have basically been product development, fundraising, and project management and communication, and you can learn more about this on the link. So basically the situation in Kenya about refugees, we have around 500,000, 500,000 refugees in Kenya. Host locations have been in Dadaab and Kakuma and some of the urban areas as well. Some of the countries of origin has been in Somalia and South Sudan. As you can see, the placements of the refugees will be some in the northern part of Kenya where Kakuma is, and that's where we've centered most of our work in for the last 2 years, and in the eastern part of it where we have Dadaab. So here we are, particularly to answer your question, Jared, about the e-health project that we've been working with Kenya Red Cross. Innovation focus on improving health reporting and clinical condition management. In 2019, we hosted a hackathon in partnership with at the iHub. That's where it was hosted, major incubator here in Kenya. And the event was in partnership with Kenya Red Cross, Samuel Hall, Google. The event was a 3-day hackathon, and the winners of the hackathon was the team called Faceless Hackers, who pioneered the initiative behind this e-health project. So really, what is the e-health project? The Kenya Red Cross team, we co-created this problem statement with them, and they were looking for innovative solutions to enable the local health workers and community leaders to provide early health warnings and avert more serious health problems. These are the team members of the Faceless Hackers, and the solution which was developed from here was a USSD application, a mobile application, and the web dashboard as well. So this is just a quick layout of how the three kind of solutions were. We have the web dashboard, which is where the clinical conditions are being received from the Kenya Red Cross side. And then we have the USSD. So for those who are in Kenya, you can basically, access via this code. And then the mobile application part of it, which came in very handy in terms of location specifics, since the USSD is not able to do that. So we had a user testing in October. Some of the partners as well who worked with were very, supportive through this process, and also talking about needs assessment. So one of the guiding principles of Techfugees on, tech is just a tool. I think it was very important to us to ensure that we are solving needs which are relevant. So coming from the needs, what are the needs of the people and how do we use tech to solve it, but not, what kind of tech we can apply here, being very strategic in this solution. So we had our pilot launch in November on Facebook Live. So I will now invite Roy, who we work together with in this project, and then he'll be able to share insight on how the situation is in Kakuma and how this was important for the Kenya Red Cross team.
Thank you. And maybe before Roy speaks, Roy, I know that in the last 1 year there must have been some changes in terms of the initial concerns in how the app, let's say, has managed to address some of the linkages between the communities, the community health workers, and the health providers. I don't know, is there something, as you take on to answer the question of what, why, and how, has there been any improvement or change that maybe as an organization, Kenya Red Cross Society has noted from the app initiative since it was launched?
Thank you very much, everyone. Yes, but just to answer your question, I believe that from the time that we were able to launch the pilot project in Kalubei, there has been a tremendous improvement in terms of the uptake of the solution compared to the community members who didn't use the solution, because we intended to have around 500 people for the pilot, but the number of people who subscribed or who are able to use the pilot surpassed to 3,000. So it shows you that there is more need for constant communication for the health issues that are existing within the camps to the relevant authorities or to the organizations that deal with these issues. Because just as Maria said, that the solution was actually looking at how are we able to link community members who have some of the clinical conditions, and how fast can that be reported to organizations or through the ministry that are dealing with these issues. So if you look at that, if you look at the aspect of using this specific technology versus community members who probably didn't have the opportunity to use this, you realize that there is a change and there is a constant feedback that the solution actually provided an upper hand for community members to be visited by the health workers and also the community volunteers. And this has enabled them to get timely assistance to some of the issues that they were facing. So basically, what is existing in the camp right now is like there is no some sort of order where the health workers are able to trace communities or the refugees that have the existing conditions. So in difficulty of finding these patients, it becomes a mess for even the Kenya Red Cross through the programs, health programs that they have in the camp. But when you look at a solution that tags you along to the specific camp and the specific household, it's easier for the health team to be able to trace and assist the communities in good time. The other area is delaying in reporting, because within the camp, there is surveillance team that are able to collect the information that of the different illnesses or diseases that exist within the camp, and they report this through the ministry for appropriate action to be taken. And this solution provides that niche of gap, because now it's able to link the reporting sides of the diseases that are existing to the overall platform. And within Kenya, we have what is called the District Information Management System, District Health Information Management System. And this solution is able to feed information to this and appropriate inform on the policies that are to be taken within the camp area. The other area is how health workers are able to report on these issues, because we find that there exist very few health workers, and with multiple cases arising, it becomes very difficult. So if you do not have a solution that links or allows the community to report some of these issues in due course, it creates overburdening to the few health workers that exist in the camps. So we look at the USSD versus the mobile application platforms that we are providing to the refugees and to the community members that existing within the camp. So maybe if you look at the next slide, is like the types of achievements that we are able to come up with. Number one is around the numbers. As I have told you, there's been an increase, or there's been an uptake of the solution within the camp. This shows that more people are seeing the value of using the platform to be able to report cases of illnesses within the camp. The other area is around the type of cases that have been solved or have been appropriately looked into. And as you can see from here, we had around 350 cases reported via the application. And this was actively dealt with in terms of the community receiving the assistance from the public health officers and the community health workers in terms of the specific needs that they had.
Excuse me, Roy, maybe if you just had, because in the interest of time, maybe if you can just allow me to direct this question to both of you, because I think the achievements are pretty much clear, and the desire and the need to put in much more resources and efforts in terms of covering a larger population is actually very clear. But the question maybe someone would want to know is, could you explain how the funds from the crowdfunding campaign will support the desires of your day-to-day work? I can start with Roy, and then Mary can wrap it up.
Thank you for that. Looking at the resource mobilization we're looking at getting is, we are looking at three aspects. One is, how are we able to capacity build the community health workers and give them much more ability to be able to deal with the issues that they face at that level, because they are the first contact people to the communities. So how are we able to capacity build them to have the correct knowledge and the correct ways to be able to deal with the diseases that they face? The second aspect is looking at how are we able to support the infrastructure development so that the system is much more advanced in a way that it feeds directly to the Ministry of Health systems, so that we have a broader perspective that is able to be deployed in any part that we have the refugees, because as it is right now, we are limited to the areas that we can deploy the solution. The other aspect is we need to bring different stakeholders into the table and discuss some of these issues, and all these require resources so that we get the information and the buyout from different stakeholders on this process. Thank you, Mary.
And Mary, while at it, as you summarize, I know there also been some progress in terms of scale up. and you're going beyond Kalobayei and touching into the urban component, and there's a place you have identified in Nairobi, informal settlement. Maybe say, as we touch both the two, in terms of the proper utilization of the fund that will come from the Tech Down Borders campaign.
Sure, thank you, Jared, and thank you, Roy, for those rich insights. So after running the pilot launch for the last 6 months, we had it was very successful in terms of the achievement that Roy has already mentioned. And we are now scaling up the project to Mukuru, which is an urban slum in Nairobi, around Nairobi here in Kenya. And there is actually the need to scale it up there, and that's why we really identified that location. And of course, thinking of scaling up, there are a lot of costs. I remember during the pilot launch, a lot of costs came in. If you think about the infrastructure cost, where is the USSD running? And we had our partner here, Africa Talking, who hosted us, but of course it needs funds to run that, and the technical software aspects of it and integration of the database as well. And also, some of the subsidies for the volunteers who we work with. You can imagine pulling through a solution and it's really helping people on the ground. So that's what we are looking at. And of course, as this campaign is running for the Basefugees project, I'm looking forward to research and publishing report with some of the research organizations like Samuel Hall, and also the technical development of Techfugees side of it. So these are kind of the aspects that we are confident with the solution, because we've seen it work. We've seen cases resolved, health cases resolved firsthand and quickly, as Roy says. So yeah, we are really calling everyone to help us in this campaign to ensure that we're able to scale this project to Mukuru.
Thank you, Mary, for your contributions. Thank you, Roy, for your very insightful contributions as well. I know we're running out of time, but just allow me to mention one last comment. One thing that also makes this intervention much more interesting is the type of community that is targeting. Somebody might just maybe assume that it's only speaking about refugees, but just to maybe let you know, in Kalobayei, for example, which is an integrated system, it is targeting both the host communities and the refugees who are in need, of healthcare access. And of course, now that it's rolling out into the urban center, same thing. Many people who are host members and the refugees will benefit from this solution. And of course, it is just an appeal to make sure that we put our best foot forward to support those that I need. I'll get this back to you, Louise, so that you can continue with the other components of the session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mary, Roy, and Jared. And I want to also take the opportunity to thank the Faceless Hackers team, and especially Alan and Cliff, who couldn't be there today, but who have been working during 2 years as well as volunteers on this pilot until it worked. So congrats to them for their efforts. I'm gonna now move over to the French fireside chat. Happy to introduce Sharanya from Techfugees France, as well as Alvaro from Refugee Infobus, and Jérémy Garnier, both from Cisco France and Techfugees in France, who will be talking about access to connectivity in France. So I'm inviting Jérémy on the virtual stage.
Thank you, Louise. So I'm Jérémy Garnier. So as Louise mentioned, I'm part of the Techfugees France since 2 years now. And so a real pleasure to moderate this session. So we'll talk about the Connectivity project with Sharanya, who is currently co-leading the French chapters, and also Alvaro, who is currently the co-founder of Refugee Infobus. And so just to save the time, I just pass the hand to Sharanya so that we can discuss the Connectivity project. And if you have any question, please raise that on the chat, and we'll have 5 minutes at the end to discuss on that. Sharanya.
Okay, thank you, Jeremy, for the introduction, and also to Louise, and yeah, big congratulations to Kenya Red Cross and the Kenyan chapter, by the way, on the amazing work done so far. So yeah, as I've been introduced before, I'm Sharanya, and I co-lead the French chapter. I also work for another company called Gravity, which deploys digital identity solutions in Kenya and in Turkey and other places as well. So the interesting thing about what we have been doing over the last year with Techfugees France is that the need for connectivity is something that is persistent, and it affects many different country contexts. So over the last year, I've also had the chance to discuss with the teams in Kenya and in Canada and elsewhere regarding lack of connectivity and how that affects each of their respective country contexts and what they're able to do. And this is something that all Techfugees chapters experience at one level or another. So with that being said, I just wanted to make a point on how lack of connectivity is definitely a problem that we've all seen affecting displaced people that we've worked with. And with this in mind, what really pushed Techfugees France to address this issue was the COVID-19 pandemic last year and the lockdown that then triggered the closure of many public spaces and also cafes, restaurants, and housing centers that previously served as points where displaced people could access internet freely. Just as a reminder, we know that access to internet isn't an end in itself. It's something that helps to access information, which is necessary to then be able to live a dignified life, as most of us do. And this is where it really becomes difficult when you're a displaced person who arrives in a country and you don't speak the language, and you have to register and become a legal resident, et cetera, and all of those things sort of are contingent on your ability to access the internet in a reliable, accessible, free of cost manner. And with the pandemic, what we saw last year was that the closure led to a lot of refugees and other displaced groups in France being endangered in terms of not being able to communicate freely with people they know, with people back home, and also more importantly, at least in the shorter run, perform administrative duties such as registering with the immigration authorities or even searching for affordable and available housing and additional services. And so with this in mind, we decided with the help of one of our local partners here called Bienvenue Wi-Fi to roll out access to internet as a potential program to test the waters. And so with our local partners who basically provide portable Wi-Fi boxes, we lent around 10 portable Wi-Fi boxes to 6 or 7 associations working in France. And we allowed them to keep these boxes for a bit and then forward them to the respective families or individuals they were working with. What was really interesting to see in this time was that the initial response to just being able to lend these boxes for 2-3 months, it's what we had envisioned initially. The feedback we received was overwhelmingly positive. People told us that this was a need that shouldn't just last to address the issues made evident from the pandemic, and that it should be something that should be made more permanent. So we decided to continue our rollout with these 10 Wi-Fi boxes that we got from our tech partner, Bienvenue Wi-Fi, who are now called Travel Wi-Fi. And we then extended to cover several other different associations. The most common use cases we saw of being able, or when you have the Wi-Fi boxes, was for education, health, both mental and physical, social networking, and most importantly, and this was the need that was present across all age groups and all regions, education, whether that was for children or for people who were older as well. And now the fact that we had this positive feedback, we realized we actually wanted to scale this program to be able to first reach outside of the more urban centers, because this is where, you know, it is slightly easier to still find access to Wi-Fi because you have displaced communities that are relatively more visible and seen. And second, to also be able to reach more people with the Wi-Fi that we were providing in a way that is still optimum and sustainable in terms of our resources and efficiency. And this is where Jeremy, because he was working with Cisco, actually offered to put us in touch with them and through their donation program actually procure 10 additional boxes that had a significantly higher capacity to support more simultaneous connections. And so we could reach potentially a higher number of users. And so all of this in one side, and with the other fact of wanting to scale to reach people that were outside urban centers who were a bit more on the front lines, is what led us then to our collaboration with Refugee Infobus. And with that, I'll hand it over to Alvaro to maybe explain a little bit about yeah, our collaboration and what your plans are for the fundraising. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Sharania. Yeah, so it was very, very interesting to hear all these things you were saying about connectivity in France. And I want to start by saying that Calais is not like a representation of France. And I want to insist very much on the significance of this place, because it's a border city. So all the issues that happen here are very particular. So I want to start also comparing the situation with other things we've talked about, like the chapter in Kenya. I think Calais used to be on the news years ago when there was a big camp, but now the situation has completely changed. And the work the organizations do here is conditioned by the fact that there is no camp at all. So the reality here is very informal campsites that constantly change because of the police presence. All we're going to talk about now is a consequence of the will of the French and the European authorities, because they don't want people to be in Calais, because all the people that are here are trying to cross to the UK, either by boat or using a lorry or the tunnel, the ferry. Calais is a very special place, and it's quite hostile, especially for the communities that are displaced here trying to cross. So that very much conditionates our work. Basically, what we do here is to provide Wi-Fi and phone charging services to the different communities that are here. And that's the answer to the main problem, which is the lack of access to these services. And as Sharania was saying, that's very much linked to the lack of access to information. So Refugee Infobus is a small grassroots organization that works mainly with a van. So in our van, we pack all our equipment. And yeah, I want to insist on the difference between a camp, a refugee camp, or the reality here, because everything that happens during our charging sessions is literally packed in our van. And then when we arrive, we unload the van, we set our station, we have tables, we have a generator. So when we arrive, we start our generator and we connect it to extension cables that go to different charging boxes. So then people know where we are. We work in 3 different campsites around Calais, and we stay in each place for 2.5 hours, so people have enough time to charge their phones. And at the same time, that gives the opportunity to spend a lot of time with the communities. That leads to many questions we're asked by the different communities about the services available in Calais, the services provided by different organizations. Yeah, the reality here is very much conditioned by the constant evictions. Every 48 hours, there are evictions and police presence that try to take tents from people. And from time to time, once or twice a month, there are big evictions operations in which people are literally put in buses and sent elsewhere in France against their will. So that leads to constant changes about the different services provided by different organizations. And we are a main source of information for the communities. And we can respond to different questions they have about where to find clothes, where to find food, where to find legal advice, and where to find different services provided, especially addressed to women or minors. And during our sessions, we set our station, and we offer the charging services. And we basically have quite rudimentary boxes in which people can plug their phones. And at the same time, we have wooden boxes with cables already plugged in, so people without a charger can always charge their phone. And we also have a Wi-Fi box, so we provide free Wi-Fi access. And at the same time, we also have a limited capacity, but we provide chargers. So people ask us to give them chargers and SIM cards. And that's basically what we do. During our sessions, we also try to create a more like a community space, although it's not really possible because after the 2 hours and a half, we will leave. But during this time, it really makes a difference for the communities, our presence there, because we have a speaker and people can play music with their phones. We offer tea. We also have board games and balls, so people can play sports. It really depends on the weather. And we know what we're doing is already very good, but we know we have a lot of potential to improve things. So we're constantly in need of better equipment. We face many challenges with, especially when it rains, because it's quite dangerous in terms of protecting the equipment from the water. But yeah, that's a brief summary of what we do. And yeah, I don't know if there are any questions on the chat. If not, very happy to answer or tell a bit more.
Yes, thanks, Alvaro. So I would say that that's kind of amazing to see what you can do with only one van. So that's really good stuff. And I would say one question for you, Alvaro. So following this donation and campaign, what would be for you the next step in order to really help further the displaced people in Calais? Because yeah, this is kind of specific in Calais and not easy to support. So what would be your next step?
So yeah, for the campaign, we've been talking about especially about our IT needs. As I was saying, we have a Wi-Fi box, but we will need to improve what we have. We have a router and an antenna, but there are more people coming constantly. So one of our main needs is to improve the connectivity and the capacity to reach more people. At the same time, regardless the devices, we always need to improve the equipment, and we need to make it waterproof and weatherproof. This morning it was raining a lot and it was quite challenging because we have a gazebo that we need to set first thing when we arrive. Otherwise, it's very risky to install and set the station if water comes into the plugs. Yeah, and other needs in terms of IT that we have is to also waterproof the boxes. So the presence and the knowledge and expertise from Techfugees is really helpful for us. Yeah, we were talking about future deployment or a visit from Techfugees to see like in person what we do. And yeah, finally, we also have a phone repair and a phone distribution program. We don't directly distribute phones to the communities because we don't have enough capacity and enough phones to distribute, but we do get donations. So what we do is to distribute phones indirectly through other organizations that have a better capacity to do assessments and especially distribute phones in a safe way. We can't give 5 phones where we have 200 people that may ask for one because it's not fair. We don't have enough and it could lead to risks and fights. But we're working on a supply chain. So we know there's a lot of potential to make connections thanks to this webinar and future collaborations. And yeah, we'd like to have a more sustainable source of donations to then increase our capacity and be able to distribute more phones to the communities in Calais. So yeah, we are very excited to be part of this campaign. Yeah, can't wait to keep doing more things.
Thank you, Alvaro. Thank you, Shana. So I will pass over then to Louise.
Thank you very much. As always, you have received in the chat the link for the crowdfunding campaign and also like the link to learn more about refugee infobus and Basefugees. We've recently published an article, a testimonial from the refugee infobus team to talk about their work on the ground, which is really impressive. So we're looking forward to get the funds and to start working with them to improve their IT equipment. And again, what is important there for us is really to understand how to support as well other organizations in other countries, providing mobile Wi-Fi hotspot and to share the learnings that we'll get from collaborating and supporting Refugee Infobus on the ground in Calais. So thank you very much. I'll move on to the next panel, which is on Nigeria. So I'm calling on the virtual stage Brian, who is representing Techfugees in Nigeria and who started to work on with IDP displaced craft women near Abuja on e-commerce, and Daryl Hatton, who is the CEO of Fundraiser, the platform that we're using for our crowdfunding campaign, to moderate this panel.
Louise, thanks so much for that. Just a very quick background. As Louise said, we are the platform that is doing the crowdfunding foundation for this, and are pretty excited to be involved in this level of project. I mean, it's very interesting to see all the work that's going on and how much thought's going into the work that needs to be done, and specifically that. So I'm particularly interested in Brian's topic because I think there's something that's really important when we're talking about some of these types of projects, is the scalability of it and the repeatability of it. How can we end up getting some of these projects to be self-sustaining even and have a community of donors? And I think Brian's project and the one he's working on is particularly qualified for that. So Brian, maybe you could tell us a little bit about it and then we can talk a little bit more about that.
Good afternoon, everyone. As you know, my name is Brian. I'm representing Techfugees from Nigeria. I am in Abuja. I tried to have this presentation from the hub where the women work from in one of the camps at Area 1 here in Abuja, but unfortunately the hub is closed. So I'm having to do this from my car. And I have with me one of our volunteers as well, my colleague Pamela. She's joining from her phone. She's sitting right next to me. Yeah, basically what we are trying to do in Nigeria on setting up Techfugees in Nigeria since 2019, after visiting the camps. I mean, we visited a number of camps, then we narrowed down to 2 camps, Kuchingoro camp and this one, Area 1 camp, because they are not so far from each other. And Abuja happens to have about 40 or more of these camps scattered around or near the city. One of the first things we realized was that the level of education. Okay, first of all, how did these people get to these camps? They were displaced by terrorists from Borno State. Borno State is in northeast Nigeria. For over a decade, there's been the Boko Haram menace that has been disturbing them over there. And then these people are survivors from some of the terrorist activities from their hometowns. So education was not very popular here. You know, it was difficult even conversing if you didn't understand their local languages. But luckily for us, we found 1 or 2. Okay, given what we found on ground and the state of things in camp, you know, the very poor state of, standard of living and all of that, it was the ways that we could help them was very, very limited, you know, because I remembered I even had some of my family or relations, they would tell me then that the reason why people like Bill Gates are helping displaced people or helping others because they've made a lot of money. When I told them kind of problems that we saw when we visited the camps. But you know, we thought of it like we couldn't leave this, because if these people are left and nobody is helping them one way or the other, I mean, in fact, giving them money is not even the way to go, because what are they going to do with the money? They are just going to spend it, and by the time that money is done, they are going to be back to square one. So we found that they had been trained in some skills, and there were skill trainings that were ongoing. So we thought that, okay, now these things that they are making or they are learning to make, what happens? When we spoke with a couple of them, all they were talking about was how nobody comes to the camps. You know, let me see if I could, okay. This is the camp, like if you can see that there's really nothing happening here. And that's the skills hub over there where I wanted to have the meeting from. So nobody comes here to patronize them. The people who are displaced with them cannot afford to buy non-essential things. You know, they would rather feed first. So we thought, okay, is there a way that we can help them find a market for their products, you know, for the things that they make? Now, we had a brainstorming session last year during the lockdown, sometime in April, and then that was where Displaced Markets was birthed. And then we had been working on it. We had Shopify support us, you know, with a store, and then by the time we were developing the store, we got to another bottleneck, which was the standard of the products. Now, if you're going to be marketing products online, marketing products to people who are not walking in to buy, you know, you don't want a situation where somebody buys or people buy and then they are not getting the utility that they wanted from such products. So we realized we had to like partner with people who were already helping them with learning these skills and sit with them to know how we can help. If it meant retrain, that's after getting the basic trainings. Now, if you're going to be producing for sale, your products need to meet some certain standard. And we have been able to partner with the Skilled Women Initiative, whose hub I wanted to have this presentation from. And it's been good so far, and the products that they've been coming up with has been, and Sweeney also shares some of our goals and vision, as they are also interested in other camps. So Nigeria as a whole, apart from Abuja, these people when they are displaced from their communities, they go to some other states as well. But we are in Abuja, and Abuja having up to 40 camps, there's no reason not to start from here, you know. And then luckily for us, our partners, the Skilled Women Initiative, in fact, they already started developing something at another camp. We have a vision to be able to take this from camp to camp, and then they are also working in that light. So we kind of found the right or perfect partners to support our goal. So now we have displacedmarket.com. You can check it out. That's although for now, we're still working on it, you know, like basically, we have a whole range of products that are not yet up on the site, but there's products coming up, and then they are coming up in much better standard than where we started off, you know. So I don't know if I've been able to answer your question, Dario.
Yeah, Brian, I think, you know, you said two things that are really important. One is that you can go to these other communities with the same solution. Once you've deployed it and you have the training and you have the mechanisms in place, and you start to build the buzz around the displaced market, which will attract customers to it, you can now extend this to other camps. So that's a very, very nice scalable component of what you're doing, that once it continues forward and you have revenue flowing from these projects to these women, you could potentially have this scaling on its own, self-sustaining. So both of those things are particularly exciting from what I hear in your project. You know, do you want to just maybe briefly talk about the way you're implementing it? You're going to go do it on a Shopify site, and you're working with that. That was part of the needs for your funding, was to get the materials and training for how to, helping them use the site. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yes. So for a lot of the women, training them on using Shopify and being able to put up their products and manage by themselves may be far-fetched, but they have children, you know, who are probably in their teens now, going on 20, who have an education or are getting an education. And then I think it is going to be, in fact, I find it exciting because by the time you train those children on those skills and they are helping their family, you know, it's a win-win, you know, and the women are going to be delighted as well. You know, although for starters, we're having to set it up, you know, to have it working, then it will be easy to train them. That's some selected. We have been able to identify a couple of them already who we can train on these skills, including even some little maybe social media marketing, you know, like with Facebook, WhatsApp, you know. I mean, Facebook and WhatsApp is the easiest for start. I mean, we might even start from that because managing Shopify might be a little more complicated than just posting your stuff on WhatsApp or Facebook, posting the link. So while they are learning, that's how we intend to move forward with this.
One of the things I would encourage you to do is to get particularly the children of the women to tell the stories for their parents, tell the story for their mother, and write up the stories, because the stories of how they got to the camps, the conditions that they're in, and now they're creating these goods, and they're, you know, this is a more of a heartfelt story than just, oh, I showed up to make some widget. I mean, this is something that's changing their lives potentially, but they've come through a very interesting path to get there. I think that will increase the value for consumers when they're buying those products, to know those stories of those women. And when we talk about all the crowdfunding projects, one of the things that's really important is this level of storytelling. The more you can tell the stories about the impact that you're generating, and that means talking about the people that you've helped. It's one thing to talk about the number of people that you've got, but even highlighting individual stories of who you're helping means that donors and other contributors are much more willing to help you. So we just encourage you to kind of have those individual stories to share, as well as the overall story.
Yes, we are also working on that. You know, we understand the importance of, in fact, the reason why we went with Shopify was because from the get-go, when this idea was formulated, we wanted a platform where they could sell their products and tell their stories. You know, and then Shopify gives us that. And as much as we are working on the products, we are also trying to have better ways of telling their stories and having more content as far as that is concerned. Coming up, we're working on it.
Excellent. You know, little thoughts like videos of the them doing the work are really fascinating for people to see, because that also helps show the feature of the quality that you're putting in.
Yes.
So are there any questions? We could turn it open. Anyone wants to put some questions in chat for either Brian or for me?
We had a question from Marie. was for all the projects. So Mary, if you want to turn on your mic and ask your question, go ahead. It's an interesting one.
Yeah, it's thank you for everyone to share your story and your amazing project. So it's just a quick question about if you can say a little bit more about how refugees themselves or displaced people are actually involved in providing some of the services. So I heard from the beginning that they're actually involved in the designing of the different projects, but I was just wondering down the line, how much are they also involved? And that would be a question for all the projects.
Well, Brian, maybe you could answer that just from your specific project right now. How are the women or the displaced persons involved in the project, in the overall structure of it?
Yes, absolutely. From the get-go, it wasn't possible to do anything without their input, because the situation that they are in is quite it's peculiar to them, you know. So the only way we could help them was to have them involved. We had the women and also some other guys within the camp. I mean, the first thing, anybody that could speak English had to like be our ambassador or something, because those were the people that would take us to the women to start with, you know. And then for everything that we have done, we have carried the women along. The women leader has been a part of because there's a woman leader for all the camps in Abuja. You know, we have worked with her all throughout this process, and we're still working with her, and we are working with some other women within the camps as well. Unfortunately, the hub was closed when I got here, and most of them do not have mobile phones, so there was no way to reach them. We would have had one or two of them on this call as well, but they have been part of the process, and they are very excited and happy because we have even been able to get, initially when we had them make some products, you know, we had to get some of them, help some of them have bank accounts open. You know, we brought like people from the banks. So they've been like a part of the process, and they are excited and wanting to work with us. When they haven't seen us in weeks, they call or find a way to reach out to us, maybe through the our partners here, the Skilled Women Initiative, you know, to ask about these people and the platform they are creating for us. So yeah, we have worked with them all throughout the process.
Sorry, Mary, just to provide more context, Mary. I mean, initially we went there thinking maybe we should teach them something, maybe we should give them skill sets, maybe we should give them this. But by talking to them and having conversations with them, they have been able to let us know that, I mean, they already have some of these skill sets, and I mean, trying to level up and trying to get a way out of their situation with what they already have will make more impact to them than, you know, doing the same thing of trying to come and give them the same trainings or variant training when they already have something that they can leverage off. So it's kind of been a journey with them, and I'm carrying them along. So it's more of a learning curve for even us. We're kind of learning from them. So we're just bringing our thinking out and, okay, what is it? I mean, how do we do it? Okay, how do we then kind of scale up using what we know and what we have to help them scale up to what they can get.
That was my colleague, you know, a member of the Techfugees Nigeria.
Brian, with you freezing now, I think we've run through our time. So thank you very much for all that information, and look forward to maybe more questions at the end.
Thank you, Daryl.
Okay.
Thank you, Brian. And thank you, Brian, for attempting to reach the camp. And thank you, Daryl, for waking up early from Toronto to be part of the conference with us. I'm going to introduce the last fireside chat from Lebanon. So I have the pleasure to be moderating this last panel. and I'm inviting Harut and Ghazaleh to join us on the virtual stage. Just to introduce quickly this session, the work done by Techfugees in Lebanon has been always focusing on remote work opportunities. Maybe Harut, I'd like to give you the floor first to introduce a little bit about the context in Lebanon, the work that you've been doing for the past years, and why it's important for Techfugees in Lebanon to focus on employment.
Thank you, Louise, for the introduction. I will start with the context, the refugees context in Lebanon, just briefing it. As many of you know, Lebanon is one of the countries that hosting a large number of refugees. Before Syrian crisis, there were the Palestinian refugees, and for the last 10 years, Lebanon has been hosting many of the Syrian refugees who fled Syria. I think refugees already have many challenges or difficulties in the host countries. And apart from the education, health, housing, all of those, the employment problem is one of the most challenging one, especially when they don't have a clear, let's say, clear image about their future. When they are staying at a host country for many years, they studying there, graduating from school, university, and not being able to implement their knowledge, their skills from their studies in the job market. And Lebanon case is very special because the country is hosting a lot of refugees, and the country itself is going through financial crisis, economic crisis itself, and already has a high number of unemployment among the locals. Before the pandemic, during 2019, we started the chapter here in Lebanon, and we focus on the unemployment because many of the refugees were without jobs, and they wanted to get hired or to work anything just to support their families and to ensure they can survive in Lebanon. We've noticed that many of the humanitarian organizations, local and international NGOs, focusing on the education, health, and they providing many kind of trainings for refugees about soft skills and other IT skills. But unfortunately, there were not available job opportunities for those refugees or young people to work. So thinking about how we can use technology to solve this problem, we started to look for the remote work solutions that already are there. Why remote work? Because remote work is a solution to remove the borders, let's say, of the place and time. So if a refugee is in camp or in a house, and he or she has the laptop, internet, and the skills and the determination to work, they can do this kind of work. During our research, we found a lot of solutions that they were designed to hire refugees to work remotely. But those solutions were demanding, let's say, higher skills. Talking here about the programming jobs available, or let's say about language learning, translation, and many other jobs that were available remotely for refugees. By time we came through another kind of jobs or tasks that refugees could work remotely, which is based on crowdsourcing projects like data labeling or let's say data annotation for AI companies or research companies that would like to hire a big number of people to do their tasks. And what is special about those kind of tasks or these kind of projects, that they are based on, let's say, more simple skills than the high skills I mentioned about the programming and coding jobs. So the refugee or the displaced people would be able to do those tasks in a short period of time and build on their experience for this kind of work. As I mentioned, while we were looking for those kind of solutions, we've been, let's say, lucky to know about Humans in the Loop. So I don't know, Louise, if I continue from here or I can give it.
I think that since we have Ghazaleh, who is part of Humans in the Loop, maybe Ghazaleh, you can take over to explain a little bit what Humans in the Loop does, and especially about the collaboration with the Techfugees in Lebanon. But happy to have you with us today.
Sure. Hi everyone. Many thanks for the invitation. And I'm so glad that I'm here. My name is Ghazaleh, and I am an annotation trainer in Humans in the Loop, which is a partner organization for the project in Lebanon. Humans in the Loop, or HITL, was founded in 2017. We are an award-winning social enterprise, and our goal is to provide work opportunities to those who need them the most as an alternative to the reliance on humanitarian aid. We currently have a workforce of more than 250 influx-affected people, and they're working together to power some of the most exciting applications of AI. We have partners from different countries like Syria, Turkey, Iraq, and Afghanistan. In 2019, we started our first partnership with Workwell in Iraq, and we reached 100 freelancers. Also, again, in 2019, we started our partnership with Roya Foundation in Turkey and Syria, and we reached 150 people in total. In 2021, we completed our pilot in Afghanistan, and also we started a partnership with Brightpoint in Afghanistan. Currently, we finished and completed our latest pilot in Lebanon with Harut's team. He and his team were very interested and they got in touch with us. So we arranged 2 pilots in Tripoli and Bekaa, and totally 25 people participated. And we did some projects with each other. First, we trained Harut, and then he trained his team. As I mentioned earlier, we did some projects with each other. The projects were medical mask bounding boxes, person segmentation, and also ships classification. And the tool which we used was Supervisely. Supervisely is a powerful platform for computer vision development where the individual researchers and large teams can annotate and experiment with data sets and neural network. In the end, I want to say that we are super excited, and this is going to be a wonderful opportunity which we will never forget. I appreciate the time you spent with me today, and I hope it was well spent for you too. Thank you.
Thank you, Ghazaleh. So indeed, we had this year the first pilot with Humans in the Loop in Lebanon. So Humans in the Loop is providing the training, so the trainers training that Ghazaleh mentioned, but also the paid missions that they're getting through clients on their social enterprise based in Bulgaria. And Harut, I wanted to come back to you maybe to explain a little bit what were the feedbacks from this pilot and this training with 25 persons, and what are the next steps to scale the program and the needs in terms of funding and other aspects.
Thank you, Ghazaleh, for your participation. So we had, first of all, we had interest from the refugees and displaced people to participate in this training. From the time we announced about the training and the participation form, although it was only training without any, let's say, promises about paid job opportunities, we found that many people were interested and we had many applications. Maybe like we only were able to accept like 25% of the all number of the applicants who wanted to participate in the training. The feedback of the training was very encouraging to go on and do the training once again, because the people, especially the young people, were motivated to have these skills and to work on this kind of project. And we noticed that also females, girls and women were interested too, because it was suitable for their, let's say, time schedule at home. They were able to participate in the training, which was online. And also the university students who are studying already or who finished their studies, they were also interested in that. One more thing that we did the pilot in like a full volunteer environment. The team of the trainers were volunteers. Also, we had a very nice gesture from local organizations that they host some part of the trainings and provide their facilities like internet and laptops. What I think that since the training was successful and the feedback was positive, I think we have to continue to train more people on those skills of data labeling. And we need support for sure. I think the easiest way to support us is to donate. Other ways I can say that to provide facilities, maybe to urge, let's say, other organizations, other stakeholders to invest in such projects to train refugees and displaced people on this micro work, remote work skills, so they can be productive in the host communities and improve their lives. I'm not alone in this. We are a team of volunteers in Lebanon, and we are all excited to launch the first paid project with Humans in the Loop to implement the training and to measure the impact on the lives of refugees and displaced people by having their jobs. And it's one of my dreams to see the first refugee or displaced people getting their let's say the payslip or salary when they finish the job. So it will be a moment to celebrate, and I hope this will continue to improve more in Lebanon and other countries to support refugees and to solve the employment problem for refugees.
Thank you very much, Harold, for this. I know that we are running out of time, but there is a lot of questions that I wanted to ask you. The first one maybe is addressed to both of you, Ghazali and Harut, is when we're talking about remote work for people who are not familiar with the context in Lebanon. One of the first questions might be, why do we need specific projects like Humans in the Loop, and why not work with larger platforms enabling freelancer missions like Upwork or others? What are the difficulties and why do we need to support projects like Humans in the Loop today?
Humans in the Loop, they have their own special, let's say, the model of hiring or working with refugees and displaced people. They did it before in other regions, and I think they are looking after the details, like dealing with people having special background, like refugees and displaced people. Also, one of the most important areas that humans in the loop handling while giving those projects is that they are getting the project, and they are like bridge between the let's say the project owners and the people who are working on it. And in some way they are facilitating also the payment process, which is something very important for refugees, because as you know, most of the refugees are unbanked or undocumented. So the payment process using the traditional channels will be very difficult to them. As I mentioned, that refugees have a special case, so I think using other major platforms will need more research, and will need more, let's say, discussion with those platforms and the people who are in charge on those platforms, because I think it's not, in my words, it's not fair to engage refugees directly on a platforms where there are a lot of competition from, let's say, a large number of people. So these need to be taken into consideration, their situation, their background, and also the payment facilities that they can have in the host countries.
Thank you. And maybe, Ghazaleh, a last word to finish. Why is this campaign important to you, this crowdfunding campaign and the work in Lebanon?
As I said, like Harouk and his team were very interested, and like we were very interested too. So we arranged like 2 pilots with them in Tripoli and Bekaa. And like the most important thing for HITL, for Humans in the Loop, is the refugees. And like we really need like to help them. Like this is our priorities. So we give all the things that we have. Like we try to search for different projects to give to them, and like as Harouk said, like the payments, the way that we pay the payment, it's really good, especially for Lebanon, in Lebanon, and also we try our best to help them.
Thank you. Thank you to both of you. We'll stop there, and we have shared the link to the crowdfunding campaign in the chat. I'm gonna say a few words to close this web conference before those of you who can stay and want to network a little bit to talk about the different speakers and ask your questions about the projects on the ground. This crowdfunding campaign is really important for us at Techfugees to support the work of our volunteers on the ground. You have heard about the 5 different projects and the 5 different collaborations that we're putting forward and that we're supporting currently. So I invite you all of you who are here today and who were interested about this session to go on the link that we shared. So the crowdfunding campaign, you'll find all the information about the work that we do, about Basefugees and why we need those funds to kickstart this platform. And if you're more willing to support one of the projects you heard about today, you'll find the 5 sub-campaigns at the end for the project in Nigeria and Uganda, France, Kenya, and Lebanon. It is important to say that you can either donate or share. And if all the followers that we have today give €1, we're beyond the objective of the crowdfunding campaign. So please don't say to yourself, I'll do it tomorrow. Go and donate or share the campaign in your capacity, that would be a great help. With that being said, I wanted to thank you all for your time today and your insights, and especially to the volunteers who joined us and who are doing the incredible work on the ground. Thank you.
But I want to thank, first of all, everybody who participated today. You know, we've had some amazing speakers, and I want to thank everybody who moderated and all the speakers who joined, and including all our volunteers and our chapters. Some incredible stories, and you know, thank you for sharing those stories with us. It's very important that we continue to talk and learn and more to disseminate those stories to the forefront. So, you know, we've got an amazing campaign for those of us who are still here. You know, please support us. We'd love to keep talking. We're always looking for new volunteers, looking for new ways to work, looking for new partners, looking for new funders. So talk to us, you know, engage with us. We are very much a people-centric organization. So reach out to us in every shape or format. So, and I hope you enjoyed a wonderful session today. I hope you learned lots, and thank you again for joining us.